also co-founded this thing called FIBI in 2007, which why we're all here today, and I really amazed at the growth. It's been a wonderful 10 years, and I co-founded that with another gentleman by the name of Jeremy Roll. So a little bit of my investing and work experience. So each of these pictures kind of depicts my journey into real estate. So I grew up in Ventura County. My dad was in the Navy, and when he was about to retire, he was about 20 years into the service. He said, well, I wonder what I'm going to get when I retire after all these years. And then I have me and there's 3 other sisters. I found out he was going to make about 800 and something bucks a month in retirement. So he's like, oh, wow, that's not going to be enough, right? So he started to figure out how to buy real estate. So I, as a young boy, I would help him fix up the properties, and we would rent them out. He wasn't really a flipper, but what we did was we picked up some properties in Ventura County when I was a kid and learned a lot about that. When I was ready to go to college, this picture here is the courthouse steps. My dad introduced me to some investors out here in LA when I was going to college who would buy at the courthouse steps, and that was kind of my first college job. So part of my routine was wake up in the morning, drive properties before the auction, because it's really no point to drive it before that because so many get postponed. So I drive it, and then after I was done looking at maybe 6 or 7 properties that were going to sale, I would go to the bank, pick up cashier's checks, and then show up to the auctions. And that was probably the most fun I've ever had that I could look back on. In fact, as a side note, I almost dropped out of school because I was so tired from doing this job but having so much fun that when I got to class, I would fall asleep. And then my dad saw my grades, and he was like, dude, you're going to have to finish college. So I eventually finished. And then a little bit about what I do in the note business. It's like the ABC. I call it the ABCs. I acquire notes, I broker notes, I also create notes. Those are the ABCs. My main focus, my identity is I'm a long-term holder of income-producing assets. Basically, I'm a cash flow nerd. And which is why, a quick plug, I created this website, Cash Flow Nerd. It's in development right now, but that's kind of going to be my place where I do a lot of interviews and things like that about other people and how they get cash flow, because I'm always fascinated with the different ways to make cash flow. I mean, I've invested in ATM machines. I have a guy that I talked to, he has Bitcoin ATM machines. I didn't know there was such a thing. Really interesting stuff. Mobile homes, I've done a lot of stuff. I've done syndications as well. So yeah, I'm basically a nerd. So let's talk about what is a note. Basically, a note is a promise to pay. It's a written promise to pay. Just like currency is a promise to pay. It's basically what they call a banknote, right? So a note is a promise to pay, usually a bank, and what makes the notes that I do different is that they're secured notes. They're secured by a piece of real estate. I don't do anything that's unsecured. Does that make sense? Okay. So usually with a note, there's going to be some things about what you're paid, et cetera. One important thing I wanted to point out are kind of the different ways you can hold title to a note, or how you can hold a note, or different ways to own a note. So the simplest way is when you own the whole note. There's a note, you buy the whole thing, you're the only owner, that's it, end of story. There's also something called a partial note. How many people here know what a partial note is? Right back there. Okay. So a partial note is where you only own part of the stream of payments. So if there